Hey, what's up people? Email back here at it again with the pre-show stuff. We have a great episode for you guys. And hey, it's episode 25, baby! We are at 600 listens and have got a quarter of 100 episodes down. When we were making this podcast, our expectations were to reach 1k listens at episode 100 or something. And it does look like we will be way higher than that at that point. Seriously, thank you guys so much for that. We also crossed 1.5k on Twitter the other day, and another thank you goes out to you fans of the show and our content. And while you are here, hey, why don't throw us a quick review, a 5-star our way? It really helps get the podcast out there and make ourselves known in the scene. Also, quick thing about things outside the DoubleDM space. I was on the first episode of Maka Unchapped, and if you like this podcast, you should check that out as well. Though I will warn you, that podcast is even more not safe for work than this one. We do swear a lot in that one. Also, I will be on Thinking Critically, which you can check out in a few weeks. Both of those can be found on Twitter under Maka the DM or check these out and Thinking Critically. Thanks again for all your support, and now, enjoy an episode about nostalgia and our past lived stories. Hello and welcome to the 25th episode of DoubleDM Podcast, where I, Emil, and my co-host Niels,
hello,
we talk about nostalgia today. Some moments from our past or current campaigns that are in the past that have maybe shaped our way of DMing a bit, that are just memorable moments to us, and I'm sure a lot of people have these memorable moments themselves, because these moments, they shape our expectations of these games every time anew, right? Every time you have these moments that you just remember fondly, even like 3 or 4 or even 7 years later, that's the reason why you play these games. These
Exactly.
moments that you remember. Do you want to start us off with your Wait.
Oh, I'm waiting.
Because we hadn't had a recap this week. Because it's still an episode we pre-record for your vacation.
Yes.
So, now...
Yeah, now I can start us off.
Yes, you can start us off.
And I'm starting with one adventure I had in the rule set of Tears made by Hauke from the Rocket Beans. It was my first time ever playing, but not just my first time, but every player at the table's first time. So it was hella chaotic, but all the things, everyone trying to figure out how shit works was just great, because we all had no idea how it works. So we just helped each other, trying to understand what was happening and how and all that stuff. And yeah, but that's the thing that started me off, that led me to the dungeon master I am today. It started all the adventuring, so I remember it fondly.
Yeah, I have to say I remember my first time playing very fondly as well, because I think I've told this story 2 times already, and I think you've told yours as well to the podcast. Mm-hmm. I started off on a school trip, and it was my friends and I going on the school trip, and basically a friend of us said, hey, do you guys want to play this game with me that my father normally plays with me? And we were like, yeah, sure. We didn't really know what it was about, but we made characters on the train to where we were going. We played every night in that week. When we came back, his father invited us to actually play with him. But he said the first adventure will still be done by his son, so my friend, and his son then made an adventure, and that one was a very cool one, because we created characters really intricately. So really campaign characters, not just, okay, I'm an elf with a bow, I don't need anything else, right? Yeah. But this time
with some backstory that someone can weave in and stuff like that.
Yeah. We created everything. Also whole character sheets and not just simple stats rolling and stuff. And yeah, we had this moment. We were in the city, in a big city, and it was just, okay, first of all, everyone finds themselves. And this wasn't in a tavern. This was in a crowded marketplace. And it was very memorable how we met each other, because we all took the same contract at some point and then just went to our contractor and ventured out from there. But we all bought our equipment there in that marketplace that we have bought before, and then we basically just played it as if we would have bought it there. And yeah, then was the first real character interaction. One of my friends, John, who was on episode 3 of this podcast as a guest, had this thief, rogue, mastermind, deception and seduce expert.
I see.
And the first interaction our two characters had was him trying to steal from me.
Ah.
And that was a very fun moment. And then we also played at the beginning where we basically weren't really that good friends, but over time in that campaign, coming from being two dudes that in a campaign where everyone else in the party had some kind of magic, for example, we bonded over not being the ones with magic, and basically our characters became really good friends, even though they started off so rocky. So that was very memorable, especially because we still play that campaign today, and I still remember every time I basically planned something with John and John's character. We are very good friends in the game, but at the beginning we weren't, and that's character development over several years. And it all started with this first session where he stole from me, I caught him, we went on adventure together after that, we went to a dungeon, we fought an octopus Jabba the Hutt thing.
Okay, yeah.
We had this weird breastplate made of mirrors and gave it to some random farmhand in the village. And after that, after like a month of playing further, we realized that thing probably is valuable more than we ever have. Like tens of thousands of gold coins was that in monetary value. And that session was still remembered quite fondly, because we had these characters that now are changed, that are battle hardened, that are friends, that are a full-on group. They are a unit. They work together, and
they've been through so much shit together that they bonded over it. And
first thing was the first shit they went through together. That showed it was just perfect to remember, because it started off it was very funny, but looking back on it, it was also very heartwarming, or it is now very heartwarming to look back on it, how it actually started, how innocent the characters and we as players were, and now these problems we face in that campaign, god dragons, the destruction of the world over a dragon war that has long since passed but might come back, and all of that stuff. And at the beginning it was, hey, you stole from me, I don't like that.
Yeah, but it's crazy how different experiences, or the same experiences, can bond you together like that.
Yeah,
it's awesome. I had something similar actually as well with John. And with John's characters. I don't know how he does it. It's always John. But we played Storm King's Thunder, and I played a War Domain Cleric. The first interaction I had with anyone from the group wasn't with John, but with someone who dropped out later. We were called by the mayor of the town, blah blah, got a contract, and were invited to enter his tower, or his office. So as War Domain Cleric, I was fully dressed in the armor and robes of my deity and stuff like that. I went up to the guards and said, hey, I have an invitation. And some random dude, just a changeling, came up to the same guard while I was standing next to him and just changed into me.
Yeah.
And I was like, bro, what the fuck are you doing? I was standing here long before that. I have the regalia of my deity and my order, and you are trying to impersonate me while I am standing next to what? And then John's character came in and vouched for me, and just that's where the friendship kind of started. I was kind of worried that someone I have never seen before vouched for me, but then we all always helped each other in difficult situations.
I have a question.
He would go out of his way to help my character. That's awesome.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Is it weird that I thought John was that changeling?
No, it isn't.
Okay.
That's something he would do, I think.
You told a story that involved John, and I thought, because that's such a John move to do that, I thought it was John, but no.
Yeah, but from that character's actually some real life nicknames came into play. We are called Schlick and Schluff now because he was some wizard or some kind of magic dude without really any muscles. And I was the muscle of our two-player party. It's funny how we can fill these things. Okay. Yeah, but sadly, this character died in the same campaign because he was set to death by a giant. He was suffocated by the big butt of a giant.
Wait. Was it your character or John's character that was set to death?
My character.
Okay, because funny thing, we once had a dream sequence where we talked to one of the god dragons. I think it was one of the god dragons. And every one of us, 3 of us basically said something and instantly got incinerated in that dream. The dwarf of our group did not talk but started to fight and it was incinerated. And John's character rolled so shitty that the dragon didn't even recognize him and just sat down on him. So it would have been so funny if it also would have been John, right?
Yeah. That would have been awesome.
Oh my god.
Some kind of unknown meta joke. Insane.
Okay.
Damn.
Well, I think especially nostalgia is something where we talk now about some characters, right? And those are past characters now. You might, even though your character died, maybe you will use that character as an inspiration for a later NPC in your world. Or if your character even survives a campaign, they can also be an NPC in your world, right?
Yeah.
So,
or you could use that, or you could reuse or use that death as some sort of plot point in the future for your world. Like an event, or he was a hero and is remembered as such because he died fighting bravely in the last battle and stuff like that.
Yeah. So about nostalgia, you have all these past moments and all these past memories and campaigns, characters, places, what all, right? I use them, but not all. Like some of them I just let rest because I think I don't want them anymore for the character's sake, for whatever sake. Just let some stuff rest. You don't need it anymore. You can use it inspiration, but don't use it right away, like full on. So for example, you have this NPC that survived a certain campaign, or you have this player character that survived the campaign, and now they come back as an NPC. Now they are older. They are maybe the ones that actually give the characters wisdom of some stuff that they have been gathering wisdom of in the old campaign. So while you have all these things that you remember fondly and they are memories, using a lot of stuff from them as inspiration or parts of your new world and new campaigns is a very good way to incorporate them. First of all, for nostalgia's sake, so that you and your players basically get this heartfelt moment of, yay, an old NPC that we know, that's so cool, right? But also, they give you a good basis to work off, for example, for world building. You have your characters have fought a wizard in a desert, and the wizard used a spell that basically exploded half the desert. That's a very interesting world building opportunity for you now.
Yeah, like every campaign you play just world builds for you. You obviously have to do some world building beforehand.
Yeah, obviously.
But because you can't play in a blank world. But while you play, your players do world building together with you to shape the world in the future and make memorable moments or saving the world completely. That's just awesome things you can use later on. But to make it nostalgic, I think you have to wait a little time. Like, you can't finish one campaign, next week you start another and just lay it on them right then and there. That's not nostalgic. It's just you need to sprinkle it in carefully.
So for that, I want to ask you, what's the nostalgia threshold for you? If you don't have one right now, that's fine. But generally, what would you say is the minimum number of days, weeks, months, years that you need before something becomes really nostalgic?
I think the point where it becomes nostalgic isn't pinpointed by days or years. I think it's pinpointed by the time you say you remember that time we did that, and not just we did that recently. You remember that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. So, when does that point come for you normally?
Normally around, depending how many campaigns or sessions I played in the meantime, like around half a year to a year, mostly.
Okay.
Somewhat around that.
Okay.
But if I have more sessions in between, the point comes earlier, and then because.
Yeah, so this...
Let me bounce that right back to you.
It's probably a full year.
Mm-hmm.
It's around a full year before I really think as something like I did not do that recently. Like we had, for example, my characters in the Phantoms of Chaos campaign. They had not a lot of story going on so far. They are still in the first chapter of this campaign. They are in arc 3 of that first chapter, and in arc 3 they are in session like 10 or something, or 5 or whatever. They are in some sessions in that arc. They didn't start that arc, right? Arc 1 was them getting together and reaching the big first city of High River. There they got the task to save some villages from gnolls. And then that moved for like a full month of in-game time. That moved like, I think, 5 days a session we played with. So 6 or 7 sessions was that arc long, or under 10 sessions or something. So
all right.
That was them fortifying the village, helping the village rebuild, and saving it from gnolls, and the end accumulating in a battle with those gnolls.
Mm-hmm.
That was like, I think 4 to 5 months ago, but in the game it was like 1 month ago. So, like, that's still something I think is happened recently in the campaign.
Yeah, that's something you have to differentiate.
Playing for a full year between out-game time basically says to me that there will probably be enough in-game time to not remember it as, that happened. But rather, yes, I do remember that was cool. It also is a thing of when, especially in TTRPGs, because here you have this. When do the characters think of it as nostalgia or a memory and not just something that happened to them?
Exactly.
In-game time, that's just 1 month. There is not much time between that, but in like 2 or 3 further in-game months, they will only remember it as, hey, that happened, that was cool, or that's when we met, and then name NPC X or something. I remember them. Yeah, for me, it's, as a person, it's probably around a year, and in-game, that depends on when the characters really feel like they have lived through enough. To remember something as not something, that happened just recently, there need to be a lot of stuff between it that basically
definitely
pushes it out of the short-term memory, for example.
Exactly.
And that can take up a full year or just 2 weeks. But normally for me it's around a year before I really think of something as nostalgia or a fond memory.
Yeah, I think using something from the same campaign you're playing is hard to consider nostalgia rather than references to old stories you have.
It's definitely just a reference, because that's something when you reference something, you want your players to remember it, and that's also nostalgia. But nostalgia comes only in play when they go like, oh that. Not when you don't expect them to really remember it.
Exactly, and it goes it immediately triggers some sort of emotional reaction from the players most of the time.
Yeah.
Because they are just happy that they realize, yeah, I remember now, that's a thing we did.
Maybe that emotional reaction, though, is the nostalgia, right? That emotional reaction is the nostalgia, because if you just reference that, they just go, oh yeah, I remember that, but there isn't something that makes them think back on the times they had, because it's still the time they had. They are still in that time.
Exactly. And one thing I remember as a nostalgic emotional thing, because it started my D&D campaign, was my first D&D game I played. And you were the DM at that one.
Mm-hmm.
We played Horde of the Dragon Queen, the first adventure, I think.
Yeah, we played the session, this chapter 1, yeah.
Yeah, like for 12 hours or something. It was insane. It was one guest we had, Sönke, on the 4th episode.
Yeah, 4th episode.
We basically made nearly the same character by coincidence, but he rolled every stat better, every single one. So I felt a bit useless, but all the party members just built me up so I didn't feel useless anymore. And that's what I remember about it. It's just 12 hours of pure fun because everybody builds up or off each other's character choices.
Mm-hmm. That session is also one that I remember quite fondly because it started my Horde of the Dragon Queen campaign. Obviously,
that's still going, right?
Yeah, that's still ongoing.
Nice.
That obviously you don't play in that anymore, but I had John, another friend, and Sönke, all three come in because they are my standard players.
Mm-hmm.
I always play with them because those are the three people that I start playing with. And yeah, they are the closest friends I probably have when it comes to TTRPGs. And that will probably also never change. There will probably be some people added to that, like you or other people I don't want to name the names of. But yeah, that session was quite memorable for me too, because for one, we played for so long, but it didn't feel like a drag at any point.
Not at all.
We took a break and basically went to get something to eat from just the street vendor across the street or something. But we went outside, we took a break, and came back to the epic conclusion battle in chapter 1 of Horde of the Dragon Queen. That was very cool because you all created such interesting characters. In a way, like, yes, you and Sönke had the same one, but you still...
we were both fighters.
That gave you, though, the opportunity to split it up.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's something you did. You guys split up, and because of how Horde of the Dragon Queen Chapter 1 is made, it's very good if you can split up and know what you do. And you both had the possibility to go because you both had the same expertise for something, so you could split up without making one of the groups useless in that field.
Yeah, because we had the same set of skills, and I think most of our actual skill choices for proficiency were the same as well. It's weird. We didn't talk about anything, but we just came to the table and said, "Hey, look at my character. It's awesome." And he said, "Yeah, look at mine. It's the same."
The thing about that session is, though, I think just a week before that, I played my first D&D session.
Ooh.
And that was DM'd by John, because that was, yes, exactly. We had, I think it was, the week before that, even before my first session, we had the last of our exams in university, first semester of university.
Oh man, it was, yeah.
It's 4 years ago, nearly at this point.
Yeah. Oh boy.
So we said, hey, let's play D&D, but it was like asked the same day. Like John wrote me a message, wanna play D&D, the quick start rules are free, I have an adventure that's also for free from the game store next to me, and I was like, yes, I'm in. He asked other people, like he asked a lot of people, but a lot of them turned him down, but 3 people didn't. Me, Sönke, one of our guests, and another friend, and we 3 played, and it was the first session of Lost Mines of Phandelver, I think. We had me as a fighter, we had Sönke as a wizard, and we had Daniel, who's the third friend, as I think he was a sorcerer, I think. And we just played, and at some point we said, okay, we can stop here now. And all of us said, hey, we want to play again. And John said, yeah, we can play again. And then we basically, the day after that, messaged him, hey, can we play again today? Because we basically had nothing to do. We had holidays.
Free time.
And he said, no, I can't right now. Okay, and then as it normally happens, we forgot about it for a short bit, for like 2 days, and then I wrote, hey, I want to DM. The same day, went to the bookstore, bought Horde of the Dragon Queen, because it sounded cool as a module.
Yeah, I remember you talking about it, just buying it 1 or 2 days beforehand.
Yeah, and then I just said, hey, John, Sönke, my third TTRPG friend, you three are invited. We are playing at John's house. He was like, okay, yeah, we're playing at my house. And then John also invited a fourth friend, and we invited you. And then it was like, okay, we are 5 people now. Let's do it. We started playing, and it was amazing. And that campaign went silent for at least 4 months. And then I said, hey, no, I want to pick this back up. I like D&D. It actually was very fun to play D&D. So I picked it back up, invited 3 other friends, because at that point it was that one friend was out of the friend group, more or less. And because this was now a campaign from me, and we two weren't that big of friends at that point.
Yeah, we just knew each other.
We knew each other. We knew the other one was a cool dude, but
yeah, we talked at birthdays, but yeah.
Other than that, it was nothing. So I invited other friends, and now I have that campaign.
And I just remembered, if you want me to guest, I'm always down. You know that.
Yes, I know that.
So I can play some evil guys or something like that.
I mean, yeah,
fine. I'm down for anything.
Can give you any details for that after this episode. If I know you've always been down. You were in my campaign before. The same goes for me, for you. If you ever need someone to play something for you, I'm always down.
I'm actually thinking about using that offer of yours in my next campaign.
Okay.
I may need you to play one of the big bad evil guys, because there are 4. And you can mess with the players and maybe even lead the heist against them.
Oh, I love
that. Like we discussed in the last episode. They need to do some sort of heist, and you can be the evil doer that needs to stop them. Yeah.
Everyone, look, he's made a marriage proposal to me.
Will you say yes?
Yes.
Yes, he said yes. Yeah.
Oh my god. That's cool.
Oh man.
So coming from the beginning of campaigns to memorable moments of ending campaigns. I talked about this in the episode with Hamilton from Dragon's Duel, ending stories already. But I've had this ending arc of my sci-fi campaign. So there's now a lot of information missing for that, because that story was all over the place. It was wild. Though, they had this... Oh, wait, I'm gonna start with the fight before the final arc, then go through the final arc, then the final fight and the final session, and then that probably is clear. So I had these characters. They had these characters, and those characters were supposed to save the future of their timeline from an evil AI from their timeline. Like they released they released an AI from a research institute. That AI figured out that there was time travel, and well, more or less because an AI can't die. A time traveler came from the future. Hey, this AI you just let free needs to be taken down now in my timeline. Please come with me. And my players asked, why can't we take it down in our timeline? He was like, well, you tried, it didn't work. Come to my timeline and destroy it. When you destroy it there, everything will make sense. This time traveler already knowing what is gonna happen after they destroy the AI, because time travel is weird.
Yeah, it just
don't think about
my
it.
Brain.
Don't think about it. At that point, I gave up on any continuity in that campaign already, because we've played for like 4 years at that point, and it just became so weird. But it was exactly what we wanted. It was this, like the Fast and Furious action movies. They started with street racing, and now they try to shoot satellites out of the sky with cars. Something along those lines. Like that's the crazy story this campaign took. So they had had this AI. They came to the future, they did some stuff, and then they learned that there were two colossals, giant mechs. And I'm talking about 500, 600 meters tall mechs.
So like Warhammer 40k Titan level.
Yes.
Big mechs.
The biggest ones there are. And one of them was actually a building they were in to find information for the mech they were in. So now you're getting how that story is so convoluted. So I revealed that map, and at some point one of my players went like, wait, this is awful lot like a body. Is this the mech we're in? I'm like, Don't tell them. Don't tell them. And wow, and then they had their mech, and then they realized that this evil AI solely had his own mech, and it basically was these two mechs walking against each other, fighting each other. Though it wasn't them actually controlling the one mech, for the reason of that mech wasn't important. They then basically got flown with like this flying car, flying whatever thing, flight ship to the foot of that Titan that this AI controlled, and through that went into this Titan and climbed and fought their way up to the head where the AI waited for them. And now comes the moment. My players enter this completely white room, like knee deep in some white liquid, like white water or something, but a little bit more viscous.
Don't say sticky. Please don't say sticky
it
white
was
stuff.
Sticky. It was sticky
Oh,
white
boy.
stuff. But not
Of course
that
it was
sticky white stuff. Get your mind out of the gutter right now, mister. And then there was this perfect human body formed. No face, no wrinkles, no scars, just perfect human body. And he was standing there and said, "Hey, I've waited for you. I know what's gonna happen next." And started fighting with them. And he was overwhelming them because this liquid was the matter out of which he was made. And so he created several copies of himself that basically had less abilities than him, but were just bodies in the way that my players needed to stop in some way, because if there were too many, they could drag them down into the liquid and drown them in that liquid. And then there was like one of them left standing, and he was like, and he gave this very moral speech about death and how humans lie, and because this AI was made to understand humans, to basically replicate a perfect human mind. And he was like, why are you guys lying? Why do you lie? It doesn't bring you anything. It's just inefficient. And then he gave this dramatic speech about death being the only true calling of life. He needs to die in a way. He wants to die. And then he beats down this member and turns around and marches this mech forward to somewhere. They didn't know where, just knew they had to stop him. What comes after is amazing, because they heard a voice once before, and that was behind the door where the big bad evil guy of that campaign was, and they knew it. They heard a voice there talking to that guy, and that same voice spoke to them, giving them courage and power. And suddenly they rose from this liquid and stood up again, way stronger than before. A feeling of energized power. And then this AI turned around again and said, "Yes, I waited for this moment. I know what will happen next."
Oh damn, I'm getting goosebumps.
Then they beat him easily. They outmatched him, outclassed him, and killed that AI. And in that moment, that AI said, now translated from German and from my memory, "Moira, I finally see it. I finally have found the true meaning," and goes out. And that's the first time they heard Moira. Right after that, they all had a white flash in their eyes and stood in space. Not space, but just nothing,
empty,
nothingness,
like,
on a stone platform.
Ooh.
And before them lit this giant, like, white creature with, like, the force of a full star in her face. Like the window to a supernova. And standing there telling them, I am Moira. I am the goddess of fate, the creator of fate and destiny, and you 6, are 6 of 7 fate wielders. The 7th being their enemy. You 7 will hold this 13 fragments of fate. No, wait, it was 11 fragments of fate. It was 11 fragments of fate. You all will hold these fragments, and if you bring them all together to the judgment, the fields of judgment where they were standing right now, you will have the power to reshape fate, to destroy it, to build it anew, to control everything there is. Flash again, they are back. Final arc starting. Find the 11 fragments of fate. They found, each got 1 fragment of fate. We had the fragment of the void. We had the fragment of space. We had the fragment of dreams. No. We had the fragment of void. We had the fragment of life. We had the fragment of light. We had the fragment of dreams. The fragment of opposite, the opposite fragment, the only fragment that can return every other fragment. And they had the fragment of creation, the fragment of matter, of reality, the fragment of reality. That's what it was. They had these 6 fragments. The other ones were down to their enemy: death, souls, time, space, and truth.
Okay, that's some hefty fragments.
Each of one of them gave them some abilities, and the final fight, they were brought back to the fields of judgment. They knew where they needed to go, as they had all fragments now. They went there, and they stood on, they had this space shuttle they went there with. They all went out of the space shuttle, and the space shuttle instantly turned to dust, like it altered like 1 million years in a millisecond. Those judgment fields were out of reach for everything. Time, space, reality, everything. It was just them, the 11 fragments, and the 7 wielders, plus Moira watching from afar. And then their enemy appeared, and they started fighting him. He was awoken. He had control over the fragments. They did not. And Moira basically always said to them, you need to kill him. Like, he is your enemy. He wants to destroy fate and everything there is. And she then said, okay, you need to control fate. You need to do it this way, and whatnot. She gave them tips, but they never understood them. She then, over time, while my players just holded off the attacks of this enemy who overwhelmed them basically every time. He was never really in danger. He put them in danger. And Moira became more and more aggressive, more and more insulting, more and more angry in what she said. I made this, every round she basically said some words of encouragement, and those words of encouragement turned into words of hate, of spite, of anger. And one of my players went, wait, this is supposed to be the person we are fighting for? I think there's gonna happen something. Truth be told, Moira wasn't as good as she made it look like. He, the enemy Damon, wanted to kill Moira because she is the one that created fate. He didn't care about fate. The only thing he did care about was bringing his family back, because his family was killed in like the year 1800 when he was chosen to be the first fate wielder. Mm-hmm. And then his mission was just to get back to his family, to basically turn back time for himself, get back to that point and live his life until the end. So then my players realized, shit, Moira is the enemy, because Moira knew she can't control fate anymore. She just can't create it. What she needs is all of the 7 failed wielders she created as a backup system. Like, she, in her early life of eternity, created the concept of having 7 failed wielders that act as a backup system so that she can never control fate again. Now she though wants to, so she needs those 7 backups to go away. Like, her own creations are the characters that now need to destroy her or be destroyed by her. So then they turned the fight against Moira with their enemy for like 6 years of campaign as their partner now. They fought, they won, they were the 7 failed wielders, they killed Damon for what he did. He said he's okay with that as long as they give him the life he deserves. And then they had like an hour of moral discussion what they are supposed to do with fate. Because now they had the 11 fragments, all failed wielders in one place, all with the same intention. Now they talked about what they wanted to do. Now I want to ask you, what do you think was their choice?
A tough one. I need some information. Who was playing in that?
Marcy and John. Sönke was playing there as well.
Yeah.
Toby was playing there. And it was Daniel, the from the birthdays. He was also on birthdays with us.
I see.
From my school. The Daniel from my school. Those were the ones that were at the table at that day.
Then what type of what characters did they play?
Marcy played a healer that became more and more battle-hardened over the years. Sönke played a psychopath killer.
So he played himself? What?
Yes. Daniel played Genji from Overwatch. A cyber samurai. John played a bomber alien, an alien that was heavy on explosives. And Toby played a guy that just threw gas grenades.
Okay.
A scientist that works a lot with gases and drugs.
I think they didn't destroy the Fate fragments or Fate itself, but I think they didn't use it to their own advantage. I think they just let it be.
Okay, with how that works is that they became now gods of fate. After they... Well, okay, I'm just gonna say it.
Yeah.
They destroyed everything.
Oh, okay, I did not expect that.
They knew beforehand that fate always restores itself. It can never be really destroyed in itself. The fragments can be destroyed. The worlds, the multiverse can be destroyed. They can delete everything, just everything. But there will always be something. If there is nothingness, there will be a new Moira. She will create fate again. And the whole process will begin anew. They had no way of stopping that. So they deleted every world, everything, every multiverse, everything. And created everything anew. They disagreed over why one said we could end all hunger, all wars, we could make world peace. One said we don't change anything. The other said we can make sure that everyone no one dies of old age and whatnot. They had all these different expectations for what they wanted to do. So they decided to make 6 fates. 6 fate universes that are completely separate from each other, that can only be traveled by the 6 gods of fate, each having their own fate universe, and one having and the fate being able to travel between the universes itself.
So they could visit each other's realm, but they all had their own realm.
But they basically destroyed everything, and then they said, but we don't want the cycle to start anew, so we create a new cycle. That now maybe that's something that did happen before. Maybe one of them becomes the new Moira. That's the thing. You can't win in this ending, and that's why they liked it so much. There was no winning. There will always be
insane.
Fate. There will always be something. You can't win this really, if you really need to win it, because there's also no losing.
Yeah, that's a heavy one. So nice.
Yeah, that's a heavy one, right? So
yeah,
because I talked for so long now, I want to hear another story from you.
Yeah, well, there aren't that many that deep stories. I just have funny moments, bits and pieces. Well, I played a Shadowrun campaign once. The first time we played a Shadowrun campaign, it was fucking confusing because it's Shadowrun. I don't get anything in that. I just we like the setting, so go ahead. And we plan to get some sort of data out of a criminal's house while he had a Christmas party. And we had the technomancer hacker sort of guy who didn't need any sort of computer to hack stuff, so he could use, or because he could use his mind. And he just did everything like a normal hacker would do, but in the escape, once we succeeded on getting the data, we needed to escape. we found out that the decoration on top of the building was a giant sledge with reindeers atop and stuff. And this was actually a drone.
Wait.
So we all just went into the fucking Christmas Santa Claus drone thing, but we couldn't start it because it was biometrically protected and stuff like that without being able to be hacked per se. But we didn't hack the controls of the drone. Mm-hmm. The technomancer mind controlling dude just planted his own mind into the AI of the drone, melted somehow his brain but still lives within the drone, and now we have a Santa Claus Christmassy drone in this world.
That's Shadowrun for you, right?
Yeah, it's just a clusterfuck, to be honest.
Yeah.
Nobody knew what was happening and why and how and
so you had this Christmas drone and he had the first idea to put his mind into it, deleting the other AI from it and now living in that body, or what?
Something like that, yes. I don't know how he got that idea, but he said, yeah, guys, trust me, I can get this thing to start.
Every time a character says, trust me, I'm like, no, I don't trust you.
But I would love the idea you have somehow.
Yeah.
Maybe not in the moment, but later.
Every time someone says, trust me on this, I'm like, no, I don't trust you on this. Though every other time they don't say it, I'm like, I trust you.
Yeah, but trust me is the word of distrust.
Yeah.
To be honest. Yeah. But, I mean, it's something like comedy is tragedy plus time. So at the moment it was kind of tragic, but now we all laugh about it. Like the crazy shit that happened in that house. It was weird. Yeah. And then we played a meme group once. 4 people playing clerics. We played the A-Man.
Okay.
Playing starting Horde of Dragon Queen to bust down Tiamat's door and demanding her lunch money, like Joe Cat says in the cleric video.
Yeah.
And it is terrifying how accurate this is. 4 clerics they are just fucking unkillable.
Clerics are so, like, bleh.
Yeah, I mean, what the hell? And we played a zoo, basically. We had a Loxodon, Domain of Life cleric. We had not Aarakocra, an Avian from the, I think, one of the Plane Shift PDFs, non-official content we talked about recently, privately. An Avon-headed Avian, or Ibis-headed Avian, something like that. Domain of Light cleric, so he was just throwing fireballs everywhere. I played a Grave Domain Turtle cleric.
I hate Grave Domains.
Yeah, it's disgusting. It's just disgusting. And John was in that campaign as well, and he played his favorite race, Goliath, Storm Domain cleric. Mm-hmm. In that campaign, we had to fight some giant toads, some weird giant toads. He was grabbed by one of the tongues, but didn't try to escape it. He climbed into the mouth of the toad and cast Thunder Wave within his belly. He allowed himself to get swallowed to cast Thunder Wave. The toad failed his con save and just exploded.
So he needed to get in because the skin is too thick on the outside, so he needed to get in to destroy it with a Thunder Wave.
Obviously.
So he basically made 2 references. One to Guardians of the Galaxy, the other to Konosuba.
Yes, he did. Amazing. Without realizing that he did. Because when did Guardians of the Galaxy came out?
Before that. It was the second one, though. That came out 2018?
I think we played that before.
You heard it here first. A long time
ago.
John did it first.
John did it first. He got somewhat of the Ant-Man idea first. Yeah, but that's basically all the most memorable bits I had in the nostalgia category.
I had a one-shot. This is the last one I have. I have had a one-shot called Mysteries in Shawmore Bay, which is the one-shot I talk about all the time when I talk about how amazing one-shots can be. Because I made a lot of preparations. I took a system that was very simple. I made characters for my players, which is something I normally don't do, but because I wanted them to play certain roles, I gave them the character sheets. I gave them the full option to do anything that's character personality related to themselves, but stat-wise I made them. And then we started playing, and it was these 4 friends from middle school and elementary school meeting up in their simple fishing town. This was a modern age play for reference. And because they were having their last exams before ending of high school, and they have all lived away from each other through high school. They have moved past their friendship. They have stopped being close friends. They agreed to meet up at the treehouse where they played before. And they had this introduction where they all were in the treehouse, introduced themselves, what they have done the last 5 or 6 years when their friendships fell apart. Then them wandering off through the forest, seeing that old house that was always there, that spooky old house. Now, though, with a fence around it. They never...
Okay.
That fence was new. They never saw that fence. They all knew that. And then they decided, because now they have the courage that they didn't have as kids, now we're gonna look into this house. They went into the house and described this really creepily house, the floorboards creaking, cockroaches and other little insects crawling on the floor, molding tapestry, and then they saw blood. Then they saw a body in there, and it was a rather fresh one. It wasn't like 5 minutes dead, but it was like 2 to 3, 4 days or something. And in the moment they saw this body, they didn't all went into the house, but there was one outside the house. He heard police sirens. They got found by the police with a dead body, so they were all taken in for questioning. We were found with a dead body.
Yeah.
This is gonna take you in for questioning. They're gonna forbid you to leave town for that day or for the week for the investigation. You are now prime suspect number 1. And then they learned that there was someone watching them. That someone the next day broke into the school while they were in class. They knew that person went to their school. They saw him. And I had this very fun game of how they were supposed to communicate in that school, because they were seated at different sides of the classroom. So I had made this floorboard of the classroom where they had to pass notes to each other while I showed them where the teacher was walking right now. So they had to pass notes. Then they needed to make stealth checks and depend on NPCs to hand the notes to other people. So they had to make ways with notes through the classroom, which was very fun for them. Then one of them got the idea, wait, we have cell phones. I'm like, yeah, right, you have. Like, I just gave them the floorboard of that class, and they started handing notes around. So I made that game up. I improvised that. Though I had the floorboard ready so they knew where they were sitting. But then they got the cell phone ID, and then one of them lost their cell phone because of the teacher noticing and all that stuff. And then they met up after school. They decided to look into this. They found out that someone with the same name as the house owner is an asylum in next town. They were not allowed to leave town now. So they had to basically break police suspension for them, and go off to another town, find this person, get info and find out anything. And then they went back and learned that there was some eldritch god involved. That eldritch god speaking to that person that broke into their school and that watched them, who was the son of the person that was in the asylum. And then it became really creepy, because then they realized that there was a cellar in that broken down building where there was an endless pit into darkness and nothingness, where that god was supposed to be awoken by a blood ritual. Now the 5 people that murderer, that son, that person that was watching them, that was talking to this god, now had his 5 blood offerings. They were in the basement. They went, and then he tried to kill them. They actually sealed the way to that pit. They sealed the pit by throwing in the diary which was from that god. Like, there was a book that described how to make this blood sacrifice and how to open the pit and all that stuff. They threw that with that person that followed them and the murderer in, sealing the pit, but only for a short time, because we have installment 2 on the way, where we're gonna play Call of Cthulhu now.
Nice.
But this is basically a 3-part trilogy of one-shots, going from you are kids in high school getting confronted with eldritch beings for the first time. Now you're all students in university, like 2 or 3 years later, and those eldritch gods have now found you.
Ooh, I'm excited for the stories. I'm excited. Keep me up on that, please. Please.
That's because, and just because that one shot was so memorable for all of us, I decided to make it into a 3-part. It was supposed to be a one thing, because I had this very fun idea I wanted to do, and after that, it was just so amazing that I decided, no, I'm gonna do a second installment of that, and a third one after that. Like a movie studio getting 2 sequels to a movie that might not even be as good as the first one, but I'm gonna do it anyway.
Yeah, understandable, and I think this will be awesome.
I think so,
just from what I've heard now.
I think so too.
I want to hear everything about it. Yeah. Well, that was a deep dive into our nostalgia.
That was a deep dive into our past stories. And I think we have like 100 stories more to tell.
There's a lot. Yeah, but thanks for listening to us just blabbing and talking about stuff we had experienced. Yeah, please share your story, your most memorable stories on our Twitter and our Instagram.
Or come to our Discord and tell us there.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Please.
The link is in the link tree on our Twitter post that is pinned to our account.
Next week we don't know which episode we will have yet, because there will be a 2-week span before we record that, even because of your vacation. But
yes, I'm excited.
At that point, Niels will be back from vacation, so we will be probably back to a normal recording schedule with new exciting topics. I think at this point, if this episode is out and the world building panel that was a few weeks back isn't out yet, it will be out at least next week, or the week that now starts, because we upload on Sundays. But yeah, it will be out soon, or even is out already. Also check that out, because it is amazing.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. So, thanks for listening. Hear you on the next one, and bye-bye.
Bye-bye!